Hi folks, today I'm going to take you down to Westport, to one of the toughest towns that used to be in Britain. This town was unbelievably tough with the Marines, the locals. Everyone used to fight every day, every week, just for some fun. Partying, fighting, it was great fun. So I'll take you down this Keppie Street to Westport and I'll explain to you all through this wee journey how tough this town used to be, okay? Now this is Keppie Street, which we're going to head down now onto Westport. The Marines used to come down for a fight. Now this town was as hard as nails. The Marines made it so all the locals used to fight from kiddie, from their kids up, fighting the Marines all the time. I say, the town used to be so busy with all the Marines fighting, it was brilliant fun. So from here down to Westport, we'll now head on down to Westport and explain all the way down what used to happen here. I say from every Tuesday to Sunday, everyone used to fight all the time, right? Carry on. Back up there's all the schools, down the Westport here. I say, so down here, we used to come down all the time. We were working on the pubs down here, which you'll see in a minute. Right now in time, it's a very quiet place. Tax office, of course, here, when folk were jumping taxes, all battered to get back to Condor. See, this town's a garrison town, and that's what made it so enjoyable. All the Marines used to love to come down the street for a fight too. What tough Marines. They guys could go after the country in a war. They came to street fighting, it was handy too, but I think most locals are a bit tougher. Just the way it went. As I say, tax office here, where they used to get taxes. I say everything's a bit run down now, but I'll show you all about what all the pubs used to be like. Station down here, it's just a run down place up here, some of it. A lot is getting renovated, I think. So we'll keep on walking down the street, we'll come to the first pub. And buy all the fucking cars. Not all, we're on the streets down here. Here's the start of Westport now. The fights used to take place every single day, every week just about. I say it was one of the toughest towns in Britain. There was even a Sky programme made out called the toughest seaside resort in Britain, which actually was in. There'll be a feature on it, which is quite interesting fun. As I say, down here now is where it all began. I'll tell you loads of stories down this street here, which I'll tell you in a few minutes when I say outside the first pubs. So this is where the Marines used to march down here. I remember one big battle with a march down here. So one big battle with actually marched down the street here. It was magnificent. About 40 Marines walking down the street ready for action. All stemmed from a Thursday. So explain in a minute, everything stemmed from a Thursday and right through to the Sunday. First fight was on a Thursday. There wasn't enough Marines taking part. They came back the next day, and the next day it was fantastic. There was about 40 Marines and about 40 locals on this pub down here. This pub here was a busy little pub. My friends used to own it. Worked there for me well, had a few fights in there. Nothing too that bad. A few fights, but we're looking at the Westport Bar now, which is a busy pub now, I believe. I've been in it for a long time. It's a nice, quiet pub with nice drinks. But this used to be called the Malacca. Probably the best pub in the world. That was The first started off way back then, a few years ago. I was probably this pub here was the Malacca. I've all used to shirts now called the Westport Bar, which I believe is a busy little pub. But when I was here, I used to work the door here. You had a couple hundred people in that place, I'd be on the door, and the fights that took place up and down this street, it's unbelievable. I believe when it was the Marines were at their height in this place, well, their pubs across the road actually, the Waverley used to be called, it's a mess now, like, And this place here, this was the greatest pub in the world. The fights and parties we had from this place was unbelievable. I'll tell you some instances. Remember, I say, one time, 40 Marines came walking down this street from this where that diabetes thing is, came walking down here, and there was all of us in the Malacca. We saw them come down the street, and we all piled out the Malacca, and we all met head on the street. And for once in life, there was no police about it. For some reason, there was no police around that day. Not a bit of soul, not one of them. And that fighting took place. It was magnificent. Up and down the street, we battled everywhere we went. It was brilliant fun. Marines loving it, Wales loving it. They were game, we were game. I think that day we actually won. In fact, I know we won. Because there was no police lying about. We're in that pub there, we had a trophy cabinet. And all this pub used to win all the cups and football cups and darts and other things went around. But that was that many fights around here. We used to find teeth, wallets, watches, shoes, everything. So we actually emptied the trophy cabinet and made that into the trophy cabinet for all the stuff we took from Marines. It was absolutely fantastic with teeth, wallets, loads of wallets actually, shoes. It was magnificent. It was absolutely magnificent. There was teeth in it, shoes in it. So our trophy cabinet was just made up of people's teeth, wallets, everything. Was a brilliant laugh. That was that from that battle. And other times they come in. So it was battle after battle, fight after fight. It was a magnificent place to be. And that was a magnificent era to be in. That was back in the, way back in the 90s. I think it would be about, yeah. So to see that pub there in Malacca was unbelievable. The fights that took place in that pub, I remember all the, it's actually my book, you actually read my book, you'd actually see all went on there. I was saying, every penny of my book went to charity, still does. I'm making this wee podcast now to see if I can raise money, enough people to subscribe and make it for charity again, give it to the hospice in Scotland, how the wee kids are passing on. So see that pub there, the greatest pub in the world. I see the TV cameras came in there, the papers came in there, Marines came in, all smashing fire. Everybody came from all over Scotland to these places, and a lot of tough guys came from a lot of different places, and they either came as friends or went away as enemies. Scotland got smashed, as there was that tough wee town here. Everyone was brought up fighting. There was a gang called the Gremlins, who were brilliant little fighters, fought all the time. So, let's say, there's always folk in it, very quiet now, after lorries passing by, that kind of thing. But I say, the pub was a magnificent pub. I'm trying to think of other fights that was just off my head, top of my head. I say the biggest one was that day. Was another one here. Football team came from, I can't remember where it actually came from. I just was called down one afternoon to work. As the football team was caused by Hassel. I think they were beating the Scottish Cup it was. And then they came down, and as they came down, they said they caused toll after the game. So as they were causing toll after the game, I was called down to help. And what a battle ensued there. It was a magnificent battle again. Up and down the way. In fact, it was up and down the streets here. If I remember busting the guy over the big guy over the fucking street, and he fell and broke his ankle. I thought it was brilliant fun. As I say, the fights up and down this Westport were absolutely fantastic. Everybody just fought and fought and fought. You can believe this street was just a battlefield. This was the main battlefield in Scotland, I think. It was absolutely fantastic. It's so quiet and that, now you can see how quiet the place is now. But I say back then, this was just a battlefield. I say the Marines will remember all, the Marines watched, they still remember the fun they had here too. And I say this place across here, it's a total wreck now, was there. This is where they all went to, it's called the Waverley. And that's where they all went. They went there, we went there. So you can imagine sometimes what happened when they came out there, we came out here. The fun and games was magnificent. I say so, up and down this Westport we fought all the time. I say that was the Marines pub there. That one there called the Waverley. It's not a total mess now. I don't know what's happened to it. It must have been pulled down or something, I don't know. But that was their haunt, that was our haunt, one of them. And we all fought like a clappers. I say when they came out there, there'd be a fight, at least one fight. And I say sometimes we were fighting maybe 5-6 times a week. Sometimes I was fighting 4 times a night. That's how good it was. It was magnificent fun. As I say, it's all changed now. It's quiet now. I want to try to give you a picture how this place used to be. The fights there, fights with football teams, Marines, everyone just fought for a bit of fun, you know. was absolutely magnificent. Now this place here, I remember once, there was this memorial place, one guy was getting kicked to bits here, and I stopped my car after the night's train at Thai boxing. I had to give my hands with 30 people, kill him. We're trying to get up the area and try to kill him, so I remember stopping my car just across the road there, run out and fighting them all. Every one of them, there's at least maybe 30 people. I chased the people down that road, I chased the people down this road here, to the bus down the bottom, punching, kicking, had every all over the place. It was brilliant fun. It was magnificent. Never forget that day. I suppose I risked my life maybe. I should have got a blue Peter badge or something, but I got nothing. I saved this guy's life, we were trying to kill him. He came off the bus up there. As he came off the bus up there, he just met the first person, started half killing him. So I tried to give him a hand, which I did. I chased them all down this road here to bust the bottom. Now, that's a big crazy football team with a big crazy set of guys, but I wasn't giving the monkeys I never cared. I was just screaming, punching, kicking, doing everything. So they were all taken care of all the way down the road here, sweeping them. Some ran that pub for safety, some ran down here. It was just myself, it was brilliant fun. That was just one night though, because the rest of the folk were not about. No gremlins around to give them a hand, nobody gave them a hand. So it was brilliant fun. Further on down the road here, this best kebab across road used to be a place called, it was a burger shop. Me and my friends were coming down the road. I thought I was due to go to court one day in Perth for assault. So as I was waiting to go to court the day, came out of the pub, I was walking down, driving down here, and my friend was looking in the pub and he saw this guy getting smashed to bits in the pub. It was a person I knew. So naturally we were in the bar in there to give him a hand. And I found these Marines and smashed the head off the bloody well, the hot plate. Next to my mate was thrown through, there was a big kebab or something in the window. And I got a burger or something got flung through there and smashed them into bits. So it's no longer in the window. There's a different shot there anyway. So that's all changed too. It was magnificent. Mikael's name was, he's not here anymore. He went flying through the window, head first. So we came out of the pub and chased the guys. I was at Marek and running down the street, drove him down the street, sorry. I drove down the street here and the fight took place with these guys. That was brilliant fun. They picked them up by the balls and chucked them on the ground. They kicked their brains and just for throwing Mikael through the window. That was so funny. So you move on down the Westport here. This place down here was just fighting. That's all I ever did, I say, down this Westport. We used to come down here and just this pub here now called Ziggy's. It's actually when I first started my life off as a fighter. It used to be called the Quake. So not the was called the Clan in the front bit, but this part up here was actually called the Quake. The Quake was a Marines pub. The Marines used to go to another girls would be Marines. It's now some lounge place that used to be called, it was called the Quake back then when I was a kid, 17 years old. Started bouncing in that pub with the Marines. And big Marines, because I was only 17, I remember, I never knew about it. But I got out to fight in that pub. You know, one of my friends, Davey Ford, who was my boxing coach back then, got me to work at 17. I thought, what a laugh it was. Fight. So at 17, I tried to fight quickly. But say it was always the Marines in it back then, but give them their due, they were fantastic people. Just made the town plenty of money with the way they got on. Hardy guys, some good guys, I met some good tough Marines, but I got a smash quite a few of them too, who were not so nice. So you come down this Westport here. I say this was the Clan at one time, this pub was the Clan. I used to go in there a wee bit. So I was only 17 when I first started learning the game of fighting. But it's the pub, it's just this Westport. I say, this was the toughest place in Britain. You couldn't believe how bad it was back then. Now, it's a quiet place, a few bars. Very quiet, no one's really interested anymore. But it's life. So move on down here now. Come to a pub down here, it used to be called Delaney's. So we'll see in a minute. We had a few fights in this pub too. It was a brilliant pub when it first opened up. A couple of friends opened it. I actually gave them a few pounds to help them open it. So it's now called the Millgate, which is a busy pub, I believe. Never been in the place now, not for a long time. Don't leave the Cape pubs much. There was a few battles took place in there. By God, there was. I remember breaking a guy's leg just outside the door here because they tried to stab me the other before. Well, smashed them in, smashed them again. So that was a fantastic pub back then too. All good battles on this place. That was a brilliant pub. But as I say, after every night in the pub here, we'd head out to Malacca Smokies, which were taking Malacca, sorry. Went to no Smokies, Bally's after here, named after a good DJ years ago. So that was called Bally's. And then we'll go to that place later on. Along here was Breakers too. We used to fight along here at Breakers. Stag got to a few times, few fights in that place too, with a few people. That was a good pub for a few fights, but a nice pub. But after every pub, we'd always have a party. And the parties we had were unbelievable. Every night without fail, we partied. Everything was a party. Our life was all about partying. And I ain't joking you, after fighting along here, after fighting along these streets to this next pub, it was called Breakers. We always fall in this pub called Breakers too. Up the stairs was locals, down the stairs was Marines. I was never really mixed until the guys come up the stairs and went down the stairs. And some battles occurred in that place too. I say this town was just so tough, it was unbelievable. You know, about these tough people going around thinking they're all smart and hard and sliding each other off. But you came to Arbroath 3 years ago, you never walk out without any crutches or get nothing in your car. Because this town was mad. But fantastically mad. Never weapons used. I had to get stabbed a few times. But not with the fight in the Westport. There's no weapons used. It was good old fisticuffs of Marines and locals. The Gremlins were the main people who could fight. And they were always involved in the battles too. There was all sorts of fight as well, weren't part of Gremlins, just they liked to fight. This was the Breakers. This was upstairs and downstairs. Up the stairs was really good fun. And down the stairs was good fun. See, we fought. They came up the stairs and down the stairs. I remember one time in the Westport here, some came up the stairs and we started fighting all. Just young locals who came up, I don't know where the trains, or someplace, came up from the training place thinking they were hard as nails. They came up the stairs and all started fighting. And what a battle ensued down here. It was a magnificent battle all the way along this road here. You can imagine the battle that took place. Police came at both ends and we're still fighting our heads off. Having great fun. And I managed to take them up the road, start up the road. And back at my Westport I met one of the Marines who'd been fighting me. They were smashed to bits and I got charged for it. It was funny. It was a good laugh. It was one of the many charges we got. But I say this place here was a really good place for fighting too. But I say it was back then it was called Breakers. But it's just a nightclub now. Not near the same as it used to be as in the fighting wise. So I say things here, this was Westport. Everyone fought when down the end of this place, Breakers, so I'm all getting on. This where everyone fought this place too. So I say from the Westport down to here, there were just running battles all the time. That was magnificent fun. And as I say, folk nowadays don't know what's went on in this town a few years ago, because this town was magnificent. And I mean magnificent, it was lively, fantastic fun. I'm actually going to take you out to Bally's now, tell you about that place, the way it was all the years ago too. See, Bally's was a fantastic place for all the fights too. Not so much with local and Marines, but with locals. So I'm saying, when folk think that they're hard, you should have seen this town years ago. Everybody could fight. That's what I did. I grew up fighting. See, I grew up fighting when I was 17. I've always been a karate and was a boxer. I boxed a life, still box today. But it's like folk were talking about fighting. And I say, even the girls were brilliant fun. They just ran about having partying. No one cared. There's a care in the world in this place. This is what you call an absolute fantastic little place. I've brought you down to the seafront now, where another fighting place used to be. This is now a cinema, but it used to be called Bally's. And before Bally's it was called Smokies, and this place was another battlefield. Folk came from all over to fight here. I remember I used to work the door here before I was told to leave. Everyone would come from all over the places to fight me. It was brilliant fun. I say, it was a few good fights, Marines in there, but other people would come just from all over the place to fight. I'm joking you. I got asked to leave because I was fighting that many times in the place. And that was great fun. I loved it. But it was just the way life was. And after we came out there, after everyone was enjoying themselves, a lot of folk would fight in the place. But it was always locals winning, nearly always locals winning. But it was brilliant fun. I got asked to stop, I got asked to leave by the police. The police asked the owner to tell me to leave because I was fighting too much and hurting too many people. But it was their fault for coming to fight me in the first place. But it used to be called Smokies, it was called Bally's. It was a brilliant time of our lives. And then we'd come down here, lots of nice wee kiddies play again now, play part now. The beach, there's a wee paddling pool along here, which is absolutely magnificent. It's brilliant fun. This wee paddling pool where kids play is where we used to party. I kid you not, we party in this paddling pool. That was so funny. sometimes after our nightclub escapades and all our fighting or what we did, we then came down here to this wee pool along here with hi-fis and everything, and we used to stand on the roof over there. You'll see it in a minute what I mean. And we used to play with music loud as we could and dance the paddling pool. It was a kiddies paddling pool, we never destroyed it, we always sure that, nothing was ever destroyed. We came down here. It's a beautiful place actually. I believe this is a nice place now. I say, but back then it was wild, and this was not here anyway. There was nothing here, it was just a case of fun. There's the roof up there, which will come to in a minute. That'd be a place where we would stand the roof. I remember some of the some of the ghetto blaster along, and he stood on that roof with the ghetto blaster, and we blasting music out and danced about in the paddling pool, boys, girls. It was brilliant fun. That was a laugh, how to enjoy ourselves, you know. I say this town was mental. Not just a case of fight. For most times, was the party too, and the party side was what we used to do. Come down here, as I say, sometimes, one of people's houses partying, we'd come down here, and we would have a brilliant laugh. I'm telling out the video to make people in this place, but look at it now. I don't folk care much about it, that's a beautiful place, eh? Good advert for that both, but advert for now. As I say, a lot of numpties in the town still, I suppose. But this wee place is none of that back here. But there's the pool I mean down there, look. This is the paddling pool. I was about to show you. So the music would blare. About 30, 40 of us would come down here. Just occasionally. Came down a couple of times, I remember correctly. And we'd come from bouncing, me like the bouncers, because I see all my friends did that. We're all, what do you call the bouncers in our both. We're all the pubs back then. In fact, there were a good few pubs, but this year, it's all changed. That'd be the roof up there. We'd put the hi-fi up there, stand roof, or open the doors, and this was a wee paddling pool. It wasn't locked up back then. It was all just a paddling pool, nothing was locked up. And we partied there and danced over the park, danced here and partied here, never gave a monkeys. No one cared. No one gave a monkeys. I say, summertime was brilliant fun. Down here, this wee pool. Well, kiddies use it these days. It was brilliant fun. I say, something with hi-fi up that roof. Standing up there, hi-fi there. Everyone danced here, danced there. And I say, it's all changed now, but it was never locked up before. It was just a wee paddling pool with player, and it was brilliant fun. I remember a couple of times, I used to speak of the paddling pool. One of the times, the other guys, other bouncers, because there were loads of bouncing friends, there were no hardy nuts, all thought we started playing Japs and Commandos. You know, back then, so no one, because it was all fun, remember, because no one wanted to be a commando because we were fighting every week, so we had to get enough Commandos, enough Japs, we went to a place, and we out at our burlet, and we ran around the place shooting each other, bang, you did, no, I'm not, you missed me, kill him instead, and we had so much fun. We'd walk through the Keptley Pond, which we a bit far up, with our hands above our head with a bit of stick, counts with our guns. And we'd walk down here, we'd come down the beach, we'd jump in the water on the beach and start playing Japs and Commandos there too. It was brilliant fun. But it was just mental times in this town. I say folk these days haven't got a fucking clue how to enjoy yourself. Because we certainly did. I say I still enjoy myself, things I do. I still train every day, box every day, kickbox every day, street fight every day, well, street fighter, but street box every day. So it's just fun. So we could come down here with guns above our heads, thinking we're real Japs and Commandos. Although, no one wanted to be Commandos, I suppose, should have, because they were better people, I suppose, back in the day. Anyway, this is just another part of life story, how I used to be. I say, I wrote my book, every penny goes to help kiddies, and well, if I can make any money from this YouTube, through people subscribe, and it doesn't cost you to subscribe, I'd be able to help with people again. And I say, this is the beach, the time we in. We jumped down the beach, wading the beach with our hands above our heads, thinking we're Japs and Commandos. It was flipping brilliant. I say 30 really tough, hardy guys who could all fight, playing. You're dead, no more, you missed me. Bang, bang, you shot. That was so funny. I say, I've said all this before on the Sky Toughest programme and podcasting, and so I did loads of stuff. I say, but I'm only trying to raise money to help kiddies, to help hospices at hospice. So it'd be nice if someone could subscribe and say you like this kind of stuff. I'm only remember how this town used to be. I say this was the toughest town in Britain, easily. The biggest partying town in Britain too. It was absolutely magnificent. You actually lived in this era, which was the 90s, 80s, 90s, further on. I say other guys were tough guys, and this was a wee dance party sometimes. I say that place up there was the Valleys, was the toughest place easily. Folk would come from all over Scotland, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Edinburgh, Dundee. You know what? We still run the flipping place. Because you're from a city, didn't mean you could beat us up. No one could beat me up. Oh, say that, I say, no one did ever beat us up. So we fought every place. I say, I've given a wee run down this place, and I say how tough the place was, and I'm only doing this to try and make money for help the hospice, okay? So I say this was a wee dancing pool. We had so much fun diving in the wee pool. We were all mental. I say there was some cracking DJs went back then too. I say in my book even tell about DJs, some top class DJs even came down from all over Scotland to play a wee rave. We used to run a wee place at what's called the place? I can't remember. I can't remember, tiny place. Oh, I can't remember. It was a big band the day. It was like once was ever there. Twice I was there. Three times had a wee rave out there too. And the best DJs came down to both to play. It was just fantastic. It was organised this ourselves. It was brilliant fun. With 500 people to get a fit holiday about 30 people. It was brilliant. This town I say was the biggest town. I'd love it to be that way. Say we're past that era now. It'd be great if we could come back all over and people just enjoy themselves instead of calling each other numpties and fucking kid on they can fight. It's embarrassing. Anyway, moving from the point, one more pub to visit was sort of where, well, it was a big pub too, a big fight there too, with some Marines tried to kill me, I believe, but I was not successful and I ended up getting charged for that too. So I'll show you that last pub, just how big the place used to be, how much fight there was. More Marines again, as I say, so I'm only trying to do a wee rundown how the town used to be. So if you like and subscribe, I'll raise some money to help the hospice, okay? So try like and subscribe. So whether it's boring or not, just like and subscribe. I see, folk have never lived back in this town back then. It was so much fun. No one gave a monkeys. And there was no knives, guns. Well, back then, was there? Can't remember. Didn't see. And we just fought. Marines fought us, we fought them. We stabbed each other. Well, mind you, they stabbed a few times to the locals, but still smashed them. Anyway, good fun, guys. Like and subscribe, please. One more pub to go. As time was going on, Marines and locals started fighting less and less. One of the really last fights I ever sort of had was one of the last fights. The Marines was in this pub around the corner here. It used to be called Bernard de Linton's. I worked in here as well. I see it's now a nice wee pub. It's a busy wee pub again, I think. I'm not too sure how it is. It's never been out for ages. This one here, all the years ago, Marines used to use this pub, now Marines and locals use it again, or mainly Marines I think. When I worked here, there was loads of Marines used it. It was a really busy little pub. So this is the High Street Arborough down there. Well, see, I used this pub, and in this pub, I remember one Friday night this guy came and started taking the mick of me, and things progressed and smashing the bits just outside this bit here. Actually, a bit of a scuff and end up getting a wee bit bad hiding, I think. Quite a bad hiding I gave him. Anyway, what happened was the Marines decided to get me back. Because a lot of Marines come to this pub, but never on a Sunday. Marines always came to this pub. But on a Sunday they didn't come here. It was always just locals on a Sunday. Anyway, the locals on the Sunday come in the pub one night. One Sunday, the guy from Dundee was bounced with me. And what did I see? 14, 15 Marines all sitting just next to the door. I thought, that's strange, never thought anything of it. Everyone's enjoying themselves. And then all of a sudden, all these Marines started going back towards the table, the pool table, and breaking pool cues. I thought, oh, something's made to happen here. Anyway, they kicked off, they attacked me. The guy at the door with me, who's never saw him for years now, we were both at the door, the Marines started attacking me at the door. They were taking revenge since I'd done one on Friday. So it was one of the last fights ever around here. The Marines and the locals started a little bit better after that. Just the year, the era we were going through. Anyway, they attacked me at the door and I was fat, brilliant laughing. It was a scream, I was punching heads off. The one guy came flying to the door to have a go, I had punched him out of place. It was brilliant fun. Knee, elbows, heat, butts, everybody was brilliant fun. And the Marines were trying to pull me back inside the pub. And I thought, folk were trying to pull me outside the pub. It was a brilliant laugh. Like, I was punching, kicking elbows. It was a great laugh. Anyway, what happened next was, It broke out, and that's was 10 o'clock. It broke out, and oh, this perfect cracks. It broke out inside the pub, we're all fighting heads off. It was brilliant fun. And the guy, a few people, oh, Stuart gave me a hand. Guy Stuart Levy, a good guy, Stuart, the friends, he started to give us a hand fighting. There's about 14 against me and the other guy. A few other folks had jumping. It was a brilliant laugh fight. But as per usual, we won. And then we spilled back outside here, and the police came firing along with batons and started to have a fight with me. I thought, we started picking on me and Stephen and Stuart. I thought, they haven't got us for sticking up for ourselves, anyway. I got charged for 4 charges. Stuart got charged with 4 charges. We both got charged with 4 charges each. I thought, wait a minute. Then I found out they'd been trying to kill me for what I did to that guy. But unsuccessful again. Went to court, the Marines never came. We were just out for a laugh. They never came to court. They eventually abandoned it, because the Marines never came to court for anybody. They were good guys. So that pub was a brilliant night that night. That was one of the last fights with the Marines. As things started dying by death with fighting. Things were just dragging on. Getting peaceable, I can't remember what happened, but that was one of the last fights. It was brilliant fun. Out here in that pub, that was magnificent fun. That was brilliant fun. I say every fight we had was fun. And after that, I say it started dropping down a wee bit. 40 Marines tried to kill me, didn't work. And I say, from the Friday, I one smashed them quite bad. I met him years later, I think, spoke to him. A few Marines with me I spoke with, and I was just young fun at the time. I say, the Marines actually came to the pub to kill me. I remember him, so he saying that Marines came to the pub to try and kill me. I said, well, I went to court for somebody else trying to kill me too, but it didn't work. I remember a wee while ago, years ago, some guys actually set up to kill me. And in court, I got fucking sent to, I got a couple of hours community service, the folk tried to kill me. I thought, because they got smashed as well. Anyway, hopefully, like and subscribe to all these things I'm speaking about, just so you know, this used to be the weirdest little town in the world. It was brilliant. I say I've only gave things from my side, other guys can tell you other stories. I've only enlightened you in a few things. Let's see, I've got a book out, it's called Little Big Man, which is just all about fighting, and well, not tell that's not about fighting, I both Canada and things like that, another place I fought in, and another place I fought in. This year, still train hard, and there's lots of other folk my age still train hard, and still look after themselves. As I say, it's all gone. This is the high street down there, well, that side up and down, but there's never any fights in there. Well, there was, we set something up once, but not that way. This is Marines logos, and sometimes going against the ones from all over Scotland. And as I say, we never lost. No matter who they thought you were, you still got smashed in Arbroath. Because we guys could all fight, no problem whatsoever. Now, from the last battle I was speaking about back there in Bernard Hunting's, ended up here. What happened was, when we were fighting in the actual pub with Marines, one Marine hit Stuart with a pool cue and broke his ankle. And one guy hit so hard I knocked his teeth out and bust my knuckle a wee bit. So I took Stuart along here to hospital, the infirmary, to get his ankle looked at. He had an x-ray and it turned out it actually broke. Now, he actually broke his ankle, but as we were in the hospital, who turned up? All the Marines. Some Marines had, well, the guy had lost all his teeth and had hit. Some had busted faces, some had really badly hurt. So they were across there, we're in the casualty department, or whatever you call the thing, and as we were in there, the actual Marines came in. The next minute, we're on across and Stuart hit this guy and knocked his teeth out. He's the guy somebody hit Stuart with the pool cue. And it was a battle and Stuart, they had bricks waiting for us to come. It was only me and Stuart. It was brilliant. I had a busted knuckle when knocking this guy out, and I hit a few, mind you, and Stuart hit a few anyway. He was in the hospital, his ankle was seen, and I was just looking to make sure everything was okay. And that's when the police came, and they're flipping having got us again. Because we're the ones we're trying to be attacked here. It was brilliant fun. And I say, so that was probably the last fight ever. That probably was one of the last ones ever. That was magnificent fun anyway, as I say. Then you ended up in the hospital. So I got 4 assaults, and Stuart got 4 assaults too, I think, from the fight previously in that. So a couple of hours early in Bernard Linton's, but see, we came here, the very last fight I can ever remember, fighting there with the Marines, well, I mean the Marines and locals. I never seemed to come to much after that. It's just gone my own way off, and era changes, but as I say, back then, that was the best fight ever. So we ended up back and fighting in the hospital, which is convenient for them because they know it's far to walk to get seen to. It's brilliant fun. But see, that was the last ever, and well, the last I could remember Marines. It sort of died off after that. Get fighting with locals, that kind of thing, but and folk coming from out of town. For the actual Marines, I can't remember. Well, blood skirmish the town, I suppose. Don't do much to do with it now. So was he training, teaching people how to hurt people. Anyway, please like and subscribe to all this podcast. I've done my best to try and raise money for kiddies, reminiscing and Arbroath, how things were. Right guys, last part of this podcast. I said, I've only tried to raise money to help kids that are passing on, help the places to stay. Anyway, so let's please like and subscribe. But after all the fighting was finished in Arbroath, well, most of it was finished in Arbroath, I moved on to Dundee and started hanging around Dundee with really tough guys who I still speak to these days, still keep in touch with, some real tough guys. So life I say was fantastic back in Arbroath and Dundee. It was really good. But as I say, with the Marines, they love to fight, we love to fight. They were good guys, only doing their job when they're out fighting, which we're fantastic at. In the Westport, some were handy, some tried to be handy, and some were just there to be punched. But they punched us back, I suppose, I think. Anyway, life was brilliant back then, the excitement was fantastic. Nowadays, I think it's wasted a bit with, I suppose, too much amphetamines, that kind of pish. But back then, even in Bally's, we were in Bally's, used to have raves, all-nighters, that kind of thing, all that music, which I never particularly liked. I made a few pounds taking money from people. I could never complain or get it back, because who cared what they said. And I say, Arbroath back then ruled the world. I think we ruled the world anyway. It was just that good. No one cared. No one bothered. Didn't matter who you were, when you came to Arbroath, you got smashed. Like the party, whether you're at a party or you had a bit of a fight. Who cares anyway? It's all past, all history. And I say, just like you see where Arbroath used to be, and hopefully someday it'll go back to that. I don't mean killing, it was partying, having fun again, rather than being bores and watching stupid computers and laptops and playing all the daft games and things. Having fun. Party all the time. The only young ones, don't let it slip away. Hi guys, I said the last part was the last part of the podcast, but please we understand it. I'll come in front of the camera just so folk can still see what I look like these days. And as I say guys, this is only to make money for charity. So back then guys, when we were having all the fighting, the Marines and everyone else, I actually became really friendly with some Marines who came and worked in the club with me. Big Steve was a big hardy guy. Steve worked with me as well. Big Ian was another big guy who first started my life of bouncing and Quaker. He was a big hardy guy too. I think he's in Australia now. But there was Steve is these days. I think he was security for that UFC thing. Anyway, I remember I got somebody who was coming through me when I was teaching Thai boxing. I still teach it. I was teaching Thai boxing back in the Viewfield Hotel. We had a big massive club. Some guys came and started training with us. Great guys. Anyway, they asked me to start training the corner. So I went out to the corner, met a few guys to the corner and started teaching the Marines at the corner Thai boxing. What happened was, I was trying to call peace with the guys, training away. I was also still bouncing, so I went to bounce up from another place outside Arbroath. And what happened was, I thought I'd been set up. All these guys came to the place who had been told were after me. And I attacked them, gave one a bit of thumping, but it wasn't. He was a hardy guy, so it wasn't exactly the wicked end of it. But I said, they were supposed to be after me. I believed they were all after me. And when I was looking at the club anyway, so I attacked him. I ended up being charged, went to court, got fined. But the next day in the bloody well, in papers, it was in the Sun, bouncer beats up disco dancer. So that was the end of the Marines read this, and that was some CEO, some person in the corner read it, and that was me finished teaching the Marines Thai boxing. So I did try my best to help them, but I never worked out. So as I say, still training away, keep fit, make sure it was good. And it's a good night for me and a good